Next up on Big Talk from Libraries 2025, we are going to be talking about little flyers everywhere. Ways that you can market using the power of paper. Andrea LeClair was with us. Good morning, Andrea. And she is at the Edwards Public Library in Southampton, Massachusetts. Their population served is 6,100. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Andrea, to tell us all about how we can use these wonderful little pieces of paper to promote everything and anything we're doing at our libraries.
All right.
Just on my desk, you would see I am not fully online only paperless society. I have got paper everywhere. I'm kind of a mixture, so I'm definitely a proponent of paper in some format.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so glad. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to talk about something very small that I think can have a big impact. It certainly has in my library, and I hope I can give you some suggestions for ways that it might work for you. So, I'm talking about little flyers everywhere. Today, we're going to cover why paper flyers, why go small, how, of course, don't abandon digital, recycling and resourcefulness so that you're not just going back to using all the paper that we tried for years and years not to use. Also, because paper is expensive. And then I hope there'll be time for brainstorming so that you can come away with maybe a project that you could take back and fill your library with teeny tiny little flyers. I already got an introduction, but about me, hiding behind several of the flyers that were just on my desk. I'm the youth librarian and assistant director, or assistant director and youth librarian. I'm sure at small libraries, you understand you do multiple jobs. The Edwards Public Library is in Southampton, Massachusetts. We're in Western Massachusetts, sort of close to, we're sort of close to some of the bigger towns. We're small and rural. I went to Simmons College so many years ago. I've been working in libraries for 10 years. Most importantly, I'm a plant fan. You can't see it in my picture, but there are plants in every window, in every window that the library will let me put a plant in. I'm a romance reader. And I'm a thrift shopper. So if you want hints on what other treasures you can find at thrift shops to put into your library, I feel like I could do a whole presentation on what I did with that 50-cent roll of yarn. But let's talk about paper today. So why choose a paper flyer? We are used to doing things on our phone, on our computer, online. I am a dedicated phone user. I have everything on my phone, including my calendar or multiple calendars. I set myself reminders. I use it as a clock. All of my friends on social media are in that little rectangle. But because we're on our phone all the time, one of the benefits of paper is that it really stands out. What I want you to consider when you're thinking about why doing paper and digital, and I'm going to talk about both of them because I don't in any way want to encourage you to abandon digital and go back to everything on paper. First of all, it would make a big mess. Second of all, we need both of them. But in terms of accessibility, when you look at your population, you're looking at fair and equitable access. Not everyone is going to have a phone. Not everyone is going to have regular access to computers. Maybe their access to computers is in the library, and so it doesn't help for them to look up the hours on our website to know when they can come in to use the computer if they don't have a computer. Also, in terms of, well, I talked about this at the end about comfort, but accessibility and comfort go hand in hand in terms of what works best for your patrons. Some people need both. I'm a person who needs both. I have a paper work calendar, that is the exact same thing as my digital calendar, but sometimes you need to focus on something that's right in front of you and is separate from all the distractions of your phone. Opportunity, I think this is maybe the main reason that little flyers have made such a big difference in my library, is the opportunity. You can hand someone a flyer, a piece of paper, in person in the moment, right there. They're asking for something, you can hand it to them. You're not only making a personal connection, but you're giving them something that they are physically going to hold. They're going to put it into their pocket. They're going to put it into their purse. They can fill out a form for you right there. And the opportunity of being able to, instead of saying, you can go look it up on our website, you can hand someone a flyer and they stick it in their book and it's their bookmark. The opportunity is there for in the moment connection. Memory, the number of people who tell me that they're going to take their flyer, especially parents, and put it on the fridge, that it's so important to me. I also have things that are stuck to my fridge that are, don't forget when you grab your lunch to also grab this, or don't forget the line of sight of your routine is disrupted by a bright piece of paper. And you're like, oh, why is that there? Oh, here's the thing I need to remember. And I talked a little bit about comfort in terms of accessibility, but some people are simply more comfortable with having a paper reminder, having an in-person, in-hand, in their environment piece of paper. And that's why I think that the push to being digital only can be really alienating and frustrating, because there's so much to remember. And if you can just have one little thing that does not have 100 different emails and alerts and what have you associated with it, it's just, oh, this is just this tiny piece of paper right in front of me. I can focus on this. So let's get to examples.
I mean, Andrea, you talked about calendars, and I have the same setup as you. I have my calendar in my Outlook email that all of us have here. But I also have a paper one. It's right here on my desk, has all my things, all my meetings on it. It's a whole total duplicate. And just a week or two ago, the state of Nebraska's internet went down. I could not access my email or my calendar. Couldn't log into it at all, couldn't remote to it from my phone. The whole state was down. So technology is not 100%. And I had to keep up with things on people. And the only way I knew, I've got to actually contact this library, is because I had it on my paper calendar. I had a meeting scheduled to reach out to this library to help them with something. So yeah, you can't always depend on it 100%, the technology.
Absolutely. No, that's a great reason to have, especially a calendar, a backup, is because if you forget something, or they serve different purposes, but absolutely, if your email is down and you can't get to what you need to do, but you still need to do your job, it's like, oh, thank goodness, I also wrote this down right here in front of me.
Yeah.
We use a staff calendar too, that is one of those enormous ones that you can get from Staples or what have you, that's like a full wall calendar to put daily stuff that we all know that's going to happen, but is helpful to just see it and reflect on it right when we come into work. And it's just like, okay, this is centering. Everyone always checks the calendar just to make sure, because it'll say in red if something has changed. And I see that before I've had a chance to take out my phone or open my email or check in. It's just another thing that's about opportunity. It is right in my path, and therefore it's going to stop me from whatever trails that my brain has gone onto, and just pause for a minute and look right at that nice piece of paper. So I was talking about my first example. You'll see I wanted to, when I was taking pictures of things, I was like, well, this isn't going to transfer. You can't tell what the size is. So this is my trusty pencil that you'll see all through this presentation for size reference. The first big hit of little pieces of paper is this handout of our library hours. Of course, we have our library hours on the door. We have our library hours on the website, on the Facebook, on the town website. Our hours are everywhere, and our hours have been the same for eternity. Well, that's not true. We recently adjusted our Saturday hours by a half an hour. And when we did that, we had another little piece of paper that said just Saturday hours are changing. And then an additional little piece of paper like you have right now with all of the hours reflecting the Saturday change. But one of the reasons this is really helpful is because when someone has come in early, which often happens. So today is a great example. Today at Friday, we open at 11:30, but our staff is here at 10. If you look at our little piece of paper, all the other days, with the exception of Saturday, all the other weekdays, we open at 10 a.m. And so invariably on Friday, you have people who are coming in at 10 a.m. who want to come to the library. We have been open at 11:30 for years and years and years, and people will still say, has that changed? And so in that moment, in that opportunity of interaction, often we're a small library in our community, we'll let someone in for a quick photocopy, we'll take someone's book that they're returning, but in that exchange, there's a little card of hours. You can hand it right to them. They can keep it in their car. They can put it on the refrigerator. It's also great for people who are new to the library. Of course, it's on the flyer you get about your library card, but here's a quick little, tiny little piece of paper. I would say this one's somewhere between, I think we can fit 6 of them on a single 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then you either have someone who's really good with scissors or our trusty paper cutter, and you've got a couple dozen ready to hand out, and they go all the time. Another example, inspired by how many people really like to take our little flyer, our hours flyer, is our mini library card registration form. This is a quarter size of the normal sheet of paper that our library card registration form is on. And we basically took it and saved it as an image, and then opened up another document and placed 4 of those images in an 8.5 by 11 document and printed it out, and with an enormous amount of paper cutting, sent these to our town hall so that they were mailed out with the census. And our town census is a big deal. It goes out every year. It's all paper. You have to fill it out in paper. There's no online option. It has the dog license in there. So everyone in town knows that they're going to open up their census. It's important. They're going to fill it out and they're going to return it. They're either going to mail it in or they're going to drop it by the town hall. And so in an attempt to reach people who maybe didn't know about the library, that they could get a library card, just needed the reminder, which is really more of what it was. It was like, hey, here's a little reminder that while you're doing all this stuff about your town, you can come to our library too. I would say we got over 200 of these registration cards back, which is enormous. I would have thought it was successful at 20. And the number of people who took the opportunity to sign up for a library card, some of them brought it into the library, some of them just sent it back with their census, and we had a system where one of us would go over to the town hall weekly and collect them and then create library cards. People would come in to pick up their library card, and that was our opportunity to introduce them to the whole library. So it also got people who maybe would have time to come into the library once, a reminder to get their card, they come in once, and then they can use all of our e-resources. But the opportunity of the census, because it was physical, in your hand, you're filling it out by hand, you're either mailing it or dropping it off by hand. The fact that we just popped in a little reminder of a library card registration got an enormous response. We also got lots of people who already had library cards who filled it out thinking that it was much like the census, something that we were prompting them to renew. Easy to handle, just go through, call them and say, oh, you're fine. Or in most cases, if it's a patron that we already knew, we didn't have to do anything. We could just say, okay, yes, your library card is updated. So if we do it again, we'll put a little reminder on it that says, if you already have a library card, don't worry, or call us with questions. But on the whole, we also got, interestingly, a lot of men who I think we hadn't thought was necessarily an underserved population, but it was distinctly different from the people who we see in regularly for library card applications. And so it was clearly a way that we know now that's how we reach out to that population that we maybe hadn't heard from. They are going to be prompt in filling out their census, and they also want to come to the library.
Interesting. We do have a couple of questions about this form that sure. I think I'll grab and ask right now since you're on this, rather than waiting till later. Kind of related, how do you get them their physical card if they don't actually come in? And do they have to come in with like a driver's license or some, proof of address type thing? How does that all work when they're taking these forms with them?
Sure. The way that we did this is that these ones, people weren't coming into the library and taking them away. These came to them in the mail. Mm-hmm. And so because they were already Southampton residents, we made the decision that we didn't need to require a driver's license or any sort of ID for making the library card. We often don't require more than a very lenient proof of address. It's just the vibe of our community, but in
trust, you trust them.
We wanted to make trust, and we wanted to make it accessible. Sometimes if you have to have mail, or if you just moved here, removing the barriers that we could to stopping people from getting a library card. And then what we did is we took a box and had it separated by letter. You had this form attached with the library card and attached with our little handout that we give to everybody who gets a library card about our all the things that come free with your library card, how to use our library network, Canopy and Overdrive, and museum passes, and all of that could get folded up into the quarter size that matched with the library registration. It had their name written on it, and some very dedicated volunteers went through and alphabetized it, and people would come in and say, I registered for a library card, I'm here to pick it up. I think a handful of people, we did mail them out at their request. But it was not, we're a small town. The assumption was that you were going to come in and pick it up. We did have a couple of questions of people calling going to the town clerk to pick it up there. But again, we're down the street.
Okay. Do these cards expire? Do they have to renew them, or is that not a thing?
Yeah, so our library card is a part of our library system. We're part of a system of library networks in central and western Massachusetts. Wonderful resource. So a patron's library card will work in any of those libraries in the network, and the network standard is 2 years. And then what happens is they are prompted to renew their library card. So it will stop working for Overdrive or any online services with the thing that just said your library card has expired, please check in with your library. We renew library cards over the phone because it's simply a prompt to check that people's contact information hasn't changed. And often it has. Often if you change your email or a phone number or something like that, the library isn't the first people you think to update with. And so that's what that was for. And so in the case of this, when we did have someone who already had a library card, when we got this form, we would just update them from the date that they sent the form in. So sometimes they would get a bonus year because they'd renewed it.
Sure. And then I know you did mention this earlier, but I think someone came in after. The population that you're serving is how much you said you're part of a system, but your library is only serving how much of that?
Yes, our library, or the size of our town is about 6,200.
Okay.
Yes, and it is the way that our library network works is that often people will library hop. So people will often use our library as a home base, and then also the East Hampton Library because they work there, or another library. that is where they also pick up holds, and there's no requirement that you pick up your hold at your home library or anything like that. Again, especially here, we're making sure that we're removing barriers to people getting our library services.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go on. Go ahead.
All right. One more example. This, at first it looks like it's a lot of information, but then you look, it's the same information repeated 3 times. This is a hold request. So if someone says, I want to put something on hold and we're busy at the desk, we can hand a patron this and they can write down their hold request and then we'll put a hold on for them. A lot of our patrons in the library don't necessarily want to go online and place their hold. They're thinking about it. They want to do it right there. And this was a way so that you don't have a line of people waiting to put their book on hold. They can just leave it with us and we will take care of it for them. It started also doubling as a request for purchase. Again, we have an online form. There's also a way in Overdrive and in the catalog to say, suggest your library purchase this. Even when I'm thinking about books that I want to add to the library, I'm often in a different situation and I don't have the time to log on and say, oh, let me fill out this form and suggest it. If I'm there in the moment, this can just solve the problem. It is, again, immediately available. You don't have to say, oh, you need to go to this site or you need to go over to that computer and do it. It is, you can hand it simply to one person. But it's also a resource that we have available digitally so that if someone needs it at another time, it's available in multiple ways. Okay, so why small? I think you can see at this point, I like them tiny. There's something, honestly, I think distinct and charming about something that's been miniaturized. Just think if you're walking along and you have to put something in your bag, if you have a big piece of paper, you have to fold it and then, or you have to fit it and then it's going to get bent. Something that's small, it's like the size, it's like a business card or it's a Post-it note size. You can just slip it in your pocket or in your bag or just hold it in your hand for a moment. It's portable, meaning that instead of having to remember where to find something on our website or e-resource or something, someone can leave with a physical reminder as well. It's postable, both by mail, like our census cards, and on a refrigerator, or you can fit it in. We have a very busy community message board and there's not a lot of space, but you can fit a tiny little flyer in there, often in the margins of multiple other flyers. And the smallness, especially if you can use a bright color, even though I know, again, bright colored paper is expensive, it stands out. It's different than, like, for example, if I have a tiny piece of paper on a pile of my daughter's returned homework, I know which one is returned homework and I know which one is a reminder for something, instead of just stacks of paper that get shuffled into something. It's tiny and it draws your attention. More tiny things. So version 2 of the library card registration, again, are 4 per 8.5 by 11 sheet. These went out, I'll show you a picture in the next slide, in books that I handed out at our local school's trunk or treat, which is, if your school doesn't do this, it is trick or treat in a parking lot out of people's trunks. And people do extremely creative trunk themes. My trunk theme, as you can imagine, was library. And in addition to candy, I handed out books. Wildly popular. Could not believe I was out of books before it got dark. And in those books, I tucked in a library card registration form because it was possible that families at the elementary school had not known about our library, didn't know how to register for a library card, simply wanted the reminder to sign up for their library card. And it was orange for Halloween. just stuck in there. The next one, this one's very tiny. I've actually been finding these everywhere. I think some of them escaped containment. They're like confetti. But this went in one of the things that is very popular with kids in the youth department are take and makes. And the way that I've simplified them is to put them in a sandwich bag with materials and instructions or a prompt. For example, this one, it wasn't instructions, it was basically a bunch of random things that went along with collage, which was a theme that we were doing. And it was just inspiring, what can you make? Kids don't necessarily need direction when handed a beautiful bag of crafts, of tiny little pieces of paper and other materials. But just something like this, it's just a tiny little prompt. You dump out your bag of paper and then there's little things like, what can I make? This is a picture of Trunk or Treat. And you can see that in addition to having the physical cards, I also had a QR code. Some people want to have the link right there. If you haven't used a QR code before, you scan it with your phone. You don't even have to, you used to have to open a special app or whatever. Here, you open your camera, you hold it in front of the QR code, it pops up a link, you touch the link and it brings you in your browser to that page. Here it is our library card registration form, but there's also the physical version in all of those books that stood out. QR codes, oh, I have a love-hate relationship with QR codes. Perhaps it was the pandemic when everything had to be a QR code because you couldn't be handed something. They can be very, very useful for a quick way because people aren't to be able to write down a link. Oh, I just realized I should have given you guys a QR code. I have a link to things later and I was like, oh, I should have put a link. QR codes can be convenient. They can be confusing. There are a couple steps in them. You can't just scan it. You have to touch the link and then you have to remember that you have the link open. But they are great for a shortcut to getting someone somewhere digital. Again, it's sometimes easier to remember, oh, just scan this QR code, just scan this thing rather than go to our website, www.etc. But sometimes I just see the QR code. I'm like, oh, not another one. So I don't know if I'm the only one who has mixed feelings about them, but
I've had previous, when they first came out, I was like, no. But now I think what changed my view was you used to have a special app on your phone to make them work way back in the beginning. And that was like, no, that's not accessible. I mean, I don't have I did it and then I said, no, I don't have the time to go and find the app and then scan the thing. But now you just use your camera and boom, it works. So I'm like, oh, they're so much easier now. They are so much.
That certainly has made it easier. For sure. I remember having to use the other app too. And it's like, it doesn't make it quicker for me if I have to open my phone and open an app and then open another thing. And
right. Just take a picture.
I always have my camera at the ready to snap.
So much easier. Since you're talking about QR codes, I've got a couple of people asking about, do you have a resource for doing the QR code creator that you use?
So what I use, I don't use QR codes that often. So and because I don't really want to pay for it, I have not used a subscription service, which will save your QR codes. I do recommend it if you have a QR code that is going to be up for months at a time or is a permanent fixture of something. It's worth paying a monthly fee for a service so that QR code will always be good. I use free generated QR codes. There are maybe a dozen, probably more free QR code generator services. And if you switch to one after you've used your 2 free QR codes, you can get a lot of mileage out of them. But they do expire, and some of them expire after 2 weeks. Some of them expire after a month. Some
Okay,
of them,
I got a couple
I
of
have
two
found some.
different people telling me that Canva, I know a lot of libraries use Canva for creating documents and graphic design, that Canva has a QR creator. If you have Canva, if your library pays for Canva Pro, oh, then there's a third person. Yes, Canva. If
I
you
did
have
not know
Canva,
that.
you've already
I'm
been using that. Yeah.
big Canva fan. This presentation was made on Canva. I have not tried their QR code generator, so I love that.
Look into that. Yeah. And someone else says that Google has a free one.
That I did not know either. Oh, I love it. Yes, see, this is one of the reasons I said I'm thrifty. I want, we need to get our mileage on a stuff like this.
And you can
If
get
you don't,
Canva Pro, hard to say, free for libraries if you apply. So look into that as well.
yes, I very much recommend that. Our library has it. They had it just for schools initially, but they've expanded it to libraries.
Right. Canva Pro free for nonprofits. I use that here at the Library Commission. All my graphics you see for this conference that I've been putting out in my promotional things and meet the speakers things, that's all Canva. I am, yes, absolutely.
Big Canva fans here. But I love also learning that Google has one, because if you are the real downfall of using some of the free ones that expire are that if you forget, your QR code is now a waste of someone's time because it scans and it doesn't go to anything, and that can be really frustrating.
Someone says they use Bitly and theirs are all still good. So
yeah.
And
Bitly's,
some use Wix. Wix, I know, is a library, is a website creator. Wix as well, yeah.
Okay, I've used Bitly for link shortening, which I really like, and I know that those don't expire. I didn't know about QR codes. Oh, I love this. Thank you. I'm getting all these resources to use too.
People love QR codes, I guess. But you said you had your love-hate relationship. We're getting so many.
Yeah, I mean, if they are working and you can get them for free, I think it's fabulous.
Yep. And this person says they really excel QR codes when the patron's on the go, like along a bike path or in a vehicle or something. Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and in story walks or anything like that, when you're not going to grab a piece of paper and write it down, or you're not going to remember exactly. You've just buzzed right past it, and you're like, oh, I need this. I actually saw a QR code in the botanical garden I went to last weekend.
Nice. Yeah,
and it was very helpful. I was like, oh, sure, I would like more information about this wacky plant.
Absolutely. Before you go off this slide, because I have one other question that's not QR code related. That banner, the library symbol banner you have in your car, where did you get that?
Oh my goodness, it was quilted by a patron long ago, way before I was here.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it is.
Wow,
the library person has been sewn on to a very thick backing, and it had a sewn curtain pocket, curtain rod pocket.
To just for just put like being like a tapestry on the wall.
Yes, yeah, I think it was meant to be hung somewhere, like a wall hanging or something, and it was in our storage closet. And I had been looking for some way to use it for several months, and then I was like, I did some measuring, and I was like, this is perfect for my trunk.
Well, they say that's amazing. I agree. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. We do have a dedicated group of craftspeople and quilters. This is definitely a sort of thing that I bet if you have a quilting group or something in your community or in your library, you said, hey, I have a project like this. What do you think? People want to help and they don't always know how. So sometimes if you go in with a suggestion, you'll be surprised what people will say yes to.
Yeah, and I love this that we've got the people here, and we talk about library sharing and whatnot, all this back and forth about QR codes that, this is where you can get, this is networking in, digital networking, but someone said you can purchase the library logo as a flag. So
yes,
you want one of these, if you don't know anybody who quilts, go and look up that library logo as a flag out there. Yeah,
that's terrific.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to your presentation. Yes.
Just one more quick thing about QR codes. So this is a quick example of saving time. I made the same flyer for a program in the youth department where people can pick up free trees on Earth Day. This is my first time doing it, so it seems to be going well, but otherwise I would wholeheartedly recommend it. So far it's been great. You just go to the neighborhood forest program and they give you free trees. So it's been very popular. But in one flyer I put a QR code because that's posted in a couple places in the library and in the community. And then for our website, I made a graphic. And then when you post the graphic, it clicks to a link. There was a little bit of confusion initially. Someone posted the QR code to our website, and that doesn't work because you can't click. If you're already online, the QR code is meant to take you online. But doing something like this, it took a few minutes. I didn't have to create a whole new version of the same communication. It means that I'm reaching people in a couple different ways. So I want to save the trees. I want to save your budgets. I want to save you time. Maximize your space. This is one of the ways you can see how close in the image on the right, the library card registration, that we got those margins so we can make the text as readable and as usable as possible. The one on the left is a summer concert series. It's actually sponsored it's at the nearby park, which is across from the library, and is sponsored by the Kiwanis Club. And it's wildly popular, and everyone thinks it's a library program because it's across from the library, I guess. And everyone comes in as soon as possible, as soon as they hear about it, as soon as there's nice weather, because they plan their summer around the concerts. And they want us to give them information about the concerts. Because we don't sponsor them, we don't have anything. And so we created something because so many people wanted information about the concerts. So the second that we had the information from the Kiwanis Club, we made a little flyer. And this wasn't, I think this was from the year before, but we used our same 1/4 template. Chop them up, and then anytime anyone came in, we would have the flyer, the beautiful in color flyer, and the poster from the official summer concert series. But then we would have something very quick, something very easy that someone could take home with them. Especially something like this, there are multiple dates. They don't want to have to remember every single one each time they come in and see a poster. They can just take this with them. We also there's lots of ways that you can add things to your receipts, but so many of our patrons ask for their receipt so they can use it as a bookmark. And because of that, it's another way of communicating. So this cute little thing that's been pretty popular with people is the add-on of how much did you save. It has the estimated total of what it was that you borrowed. But our receipt printer has customizable templates. And so we could put, if there was a big change coming, we could add it to our receipt. If you're already giving your patron the receipt, just a little bit more text gives you another way to hand them another small piece of paper. So other ideas, I'm just checking the time. Oh, we're not doing bad, sorry. I could talk about this stuff forever. I love paper. I love communicating with people. So I love finding ways to remind them that we are here for them. Other ways that you could, or that I've seen people use small flyers, are recipe cards that come with their seed library. A little index card is the perfect size for someone to take along with a packet of seeds or a baggie of seeds. I use paper for summer reading. We had an online, we used, I think, whatever it was before Beanstack. It was expensive. Not everyone liked it. Not everyone understood it. So we went back to just using paper, and I found it's really popular with our kids because they get to fill out their own information. The summer reading registration form is a ticket. I can fit 3 or 6 on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then as they're signing up, we have a physical booklet that we give people. And so people are in the library, and they can find out also when kids get their raffle tickets, which is how we do incentive prizes. For a certain amount of reading, you get a raffle ticket. Again, we do it on paper because kids love writing out their information and then choosing which prize they want to be entered for. So there's something that is really community building and making a personal connection by just exchanging pieces of paper. Library of Things handouts. It might be cumbersome to hand out a whole piece of paper with your Library of Things item. Having something that's small that can just be even laminated, or something that can be taped onto a bag or a box or something like that. We have yearly, when our statistics come out, we make a scavenger hunt, pictured here, handwritten on index cards that make a nice little tent. And we have facts about the year in the library. And it's fun. They stay up for a while because you don't need to achieve anything. You don't need to complete the scavenger hunt. You simply can just discover them. There's one on top of the wall-mounted hand sanitizer. People will frequently just pick it up and look at it, and it's just a fun little way to not have clutter, to not have giant signs, to not have a lot of information. It's a digestible amount of information, just one tiny little fact. I was mentioning earlier about service changes or new feature updates. One thing that I don't know if, I'm sure that many of you have been through a library system migration. When I was working at another library, we changed to Evergreen from Millennium. Enormous change in interface for our patrons. And to ramp up to it, one of the many ways that to let people know that things were changing, but that we could show you how to adjust to the changes, we're putting little slips of paper, roughly bookmark sized, in people's holds. So when they would pick up a book that was on hold, in every single one would be that little piece of paper that was like, hey, Evergreen is coming, just that reminder, along with all the other signs and what have you. So it was just that tiny little way to spread information. And I'm sure it, like you, we have many patrons who are our regulars, and we're tired of seeing that piece of paper in there. Sometimes we would catch it and take them out and be like, oh, Bob already knows about it. But ultimately, it is worth taking a chance that that information could get to somebody, so they're a little bit more prepared when you're making a major change. And I mentioned about the receipts doing double duty. A lot of patrons want their receipts anyway. It's optional. That's the other thing too. So it's optional. We don't require that anyone take their receipt. Sometimes it is too much paper. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes if you've taken 40 children's books out, you don't want like the old CVS style receipt that is a mile long. But if you do have patrons who like receipts, it's another way that you can just give them a tiny little message. And that's really it. If we have questions, if we have some time, let me see what the time is. We have some time to brainstorm. I'd love to hear if people have any ideas that they were thinking about that they might be able to use a tiny flyer for. I'd love to hear about it.
Sure, yes, we do have some questions that came in. Definitely. Thank you so much, Andrea. This was some great ideas for flyers and things to use them for. I definitely agree. This doesn't mean you're abandoning digital or the other ways you're doing it. It's just another way to reach out to people. And this is something I think we do need to do, and I think lots of libraries are successful with it. When we talk about go where your patrons are, this is the same kind of thing. Use what your patrons want to use. Don't just say everything's digital, you just have to go online. No, not everyone wants to do that. So we do have a few questions that popped in, so I'll go through those now. And they want to know, are these on regular paper or cardstock? What type of paper are you using?
So everything that I showed today, with the exception of that last one with the library scavenger hunt, which was on an index card, was just regular paper. A lot of it was, we will get often as like a Giving Tree donation, a big packet of colored printer paper. We use that often for flyers too. Instead of printing in color, which is more expensive for us, we will print black and white on a colored piece of paper that's just normal style printer paper, but that's colored.
Sure.
I have done a couple of things for summer reading that were on cardstock, that was anything that I thought might need to be used more than once. But everything else was just on regular paper, because cardstock can be kind of expensive. But I think if you think it's going to be used, handled many times, or needs to be displayed, or needs to be flat or posted somewhere, that's a good reason to use cardstock.
Sure.
But I think otherwise, regular printer paper is pretty durable. It can get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So someone wants to know, do you have concern? Isn't something that's small likely to get lost? Are you worried about that? We tend to go with quarter-page flyers.
Small can definitely get lost, like I was saying with the take and make little pieces of paper that are like confetti, or that are all over my youth department floor right now because they flutter off when people spill out the bag of crafts. If it is, like I said, with the flyer that or the handout that we give when people sign up for the library card, that is a full-sized piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's both because it has a lot of information, but because it is something that we want to make sure that you don't lose. Mm-hmm. Things like the hours, I mean, I feel like it's also the sort of thing, like, it's not, if you lose it, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's something that it's not vital necessarily. I do think the quarter sheet is a great classic size. I think visually you can fit a lot in it. And it is less likely to.
They've had success turning flyers into bookmarks, actually making it, the bookmark shape and size. So it's tiny, it's a little flyer type thing, but then they have a bookmark for Beanstack, walks you through signing up, and has a QR code to bring you to the library's Beanstack page.
Yes, that's terrific. I love bookmarks, and everyone always is losing bookmarks, so they always need another one. And you're going to reuse and touch a bookmark a bunch of times. So putting information on a bookmark like that is great. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that.
Do you track the quantity of flyers that go out? Do you know how many people take them? What kind of statistics are you gathering, I suppose, is the general question there.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't, for things like our, like the hours or the patron request form. For things like the library card registration form, we did have an exact count of how many went out for the census one, and I did have an exact count of how many went out for Halloween, simply because I knew how many books I had that I was giving away.
Sure.
And then for summer reading, I do track because I end up counting them, and I need to know for statistics of how many people registered, how many people were entered for a certain prize, or that sort of thing. I think it would be an interesting thing to do, along with, we do like quarterly delivery surveys and patron count surveys as a part that are through the library network, but it's part for our yearly statistics, to keep track of how many handouts or how many interactions where you hand someone something or you see someone take something someone's doing in a week. I'd be very curious to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple of comments about the slide one right now that I'll mention. Someone said when they tried that bit.ly that you have there, it required them to request access.
Oh no!
So I need to change the settings on that later.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you give me 5 minutes, I will fix the settings.
It'll be fixed after she's done presenting here. Yeah. And so once you go back to the last slide, what was on the previous slide? I don't know.
Previous slide. Let's see.
This one? The ideas for things. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Let's see. We do have a few other questions here. Let's see. Someone says they also do a lot of paper because my patrons like paper. Yes, this is awesome. Really interested in the QR codes. So going to look into that, definitely.
Yeah, that's so great.
Okay. Do you have any additional advice for posting information on community bulletin boards around town, like calendars of upcoming events, etc.?
What I have found the most success with is, like I mentioned about using colored paper, but not necessarily if you are swimming in colored ink, then make beautiful posters. But if it's, for limited use, or you just want to get the maximum amount out of it, putting black and white on just normal bright colored pieces of paper makes them stand out from a lot of the other what might be traditionally white paper flyers.
Yeah, make them
Also,
stand out, definitely, because there's going to be so many things on those bulletin boards.
Yeah, and then also not putting as much information as you can. It's sort of like, this is like a silly comparison, but it's like when you're roasting vegetables, you think on your sheet pan, I want to get as many vegetables on there as possible. But in order to get them all nice and crispy, they need to be separated from one another. Yeah, exactly. And I think information is the same way. If you want someone to be able to take in information that they're not necessarily taking with them, that if they're seeing it posted in a community board, a smaller amount of information is more likely to stick than like with the summer concert series. There are beautiful posters of the summer concert series. People will come in every week and be like, what's the next concert? What is it? Or they'll go back and check the sign, because it's true, we're trying to keep a lot in our heads. I think something that you can, if you're posting it or sending it out with somebody, something that has quick visual reminders of like your top 3 facts on that thing that someone can glance at. I have a 9-year-old, and she has several things that are weekly that have to happen that are posted on my fridge. And the things that I remember are the calendar sheet that has her specials, which is like what they call art, gym, etc. For which one is each day. It's big and bold. Monday, art. It's just like, it's like, okay, I can scan the date, the day of the week, and the special, just like that. No other information. So as I'm going out the door and being like, oh my God, we forgot your sneakers for gym, it's right there. So some way to visually signal what's the most important information you want to get here, rather than how well I've got you to get you as much information as possible.
Yeah, a couple more questions we're going to get through here. I'm going to get to, and then I think we'll have to wrap it up to get into our lunchtime lightning rounds. Someone says, I do like the small format, but do you have any issues with accessibility for patrons who need large print?
So we've actually, that has come up. One of the things that I've done, it's often been in the moment, is photocopying something like our hours zoomed up for a patron to take out. I think it is worth thinking about if you have a lot of patrons who use a large print, or also want a resource that they can take with them to have a version that's simply bigger or easier to read.
You're not just switching just to these type of flyers. This is in addition possibly to what you are doing full size or larger size, whatever.
Right. Yeah. But I also think that would be a great idea. We have a shelf that is open for posting things in our large print section above where the new large print books are. And that would be a great place to put some smaller but larger print, things like our hours. I could do a quarter size version of our hours that takes up some of the extraneous information, and it's just a little more usable. But yeah, I would say that don't replace everything with tiny.
No.
Definitely have it as an option. But yeah, if you're finding particularly that you're having patrons who are like, I want this for information small, but not this small. It's great to be able to, and especially if you're using things in Canva, or you've made one of those little things an image, in 2 seconds you can stretch it out and have it be a bigger size, and you don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah. A couple of books questions that we'll do, and then we'll wrap it up. Someone wants to know, when you did your trunk or treat there, where did you get your books to give away? They're looking for free or inexpensive options. Where did yours come from?
I had, honestly, that was a bounty of books that came after our book sale. We have a yearly, or the Friends sponsor a yearly book sale.
Leftovers, yes.
And I grabbed anything that looked like it would be good, so that I had ample things to give away. I also got, not from that, but in other times when I've been giving away books, like for summer reading, often we'll have people, we'll have a cart of, when you sign up for summer reading, you can just take a free book. Even though the library is full of free books, it's like, this is a free book to keep.
Take home and keep.
Yeah, take and keep. My favorite local thrift store. They often get a ton of kids' books, and they don't necessarily have the space for them. They don't necessarily sell or aren't necessarily worth selling, but are good enough to give away for free. And I'll get in touch with them every couple of months and be like, hey, do you need me to come in? One time they had so many books that they sent me to their children's book section and said, take anything you want. And I left there.
Get them out of here.
Yeah, as many books as I could carry. I think again, like you could definitely source donations if you didn't do a book sale. You could be like, good condition kids cleaning out your kids' paperbacks or something. I mean, they certainly weren't the newest books. And they went anyway. They were not the top hits that are in my new book section. Some of them were old, some of them were the Animorphs series, not the new ones, the old ones. Kids liked them. It was a book that they could take for themselves. So, but also, I mean, you can certainly, depending on where you live, at the end of other people's book sales, sometimes they might want you to take some of their stuff away for them too.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Another great way, like come in the last hour of like your neighbor's public library book sale. Just be like, can I take some garage sales?
Everything's like 10 cents each or something.
Yes, yeah. Or tag sales, we call them garage sales, but yeah. Great. Sometimes people just want it out of their hands, space, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not in good condition. They just, like, I need to not have this in my possession any longer.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll do this last question here is from one of our fellow presenters who's going to be on later today. It's a little different, but you did mention this earlier, so it's okay. As a fellow romance reader, who are some of your favorite authors?
Oh my God. I love Tessa Bailey. I became a reluctant fan of Allie Hazelwood. Only reluctant because I'm like, this is so popular. It doesn't mean I'm gonna love it. Oh my God. I was so wrong. Oh my God, I can't remember her name. She has it's the series of sisters, and it's like get a clue. I'm looking it up on my phone right now.
Alyssa Cole?
Oh, it's not Alyssa Cole, but I also love Alyssa Cole. Get a clue. It's a series of sisters. She's an African-American author. Oh my God, I can't remember it. I'll think about it. I'll come in later. Talia Hibbert, yes.
That's the one she said. Yep. Okay.
I love her. And I recently read her new YA novel, which is also terrific. But I will tell you, if you're recommending it to your teens and then they want to read more from her, the spice level in her other series is a little bit of a shock. So you can prepare them for that.
Be aware. Yes.
She's a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. Pop over to your last slide there with your contact info just for a second here. I know we did have other questions, just to have time to get to them. We've got to move into our next session, but there is Andrea's email. If you want to, definitely reach out to her, and she'd be happy to chat with you about QR codes, little flyers, and romance books that you might want to read.
Yes, for sure. When people ask you what's your favorite book, and you're like, I have never read a book in my life. Like, that's immediately where my head went. I was like,
yes. You're like,
who? And I will fix in moments. I will fix the permissions for the
link
Google
there.
filter.
Yeah. And then when these slides are available, they will have the fixed link as well. So when you all go back to this, when we get the recordings up, that will all be the correct ones. All right. Thank you so much, Andrea. I am going. Yeah.